Great day, EXPs. Great day, everybody. Great day, my beautiful people. Thank you guys for joining me on this lovely day. As you guys can see, got a good instrumental playing. I can't say the name because you know how YouTube can be with copyright and trademark infringement. So I will keep it anonymous, but y'all know who that is, right? And we are also in our truck. So we are currently in Cali. Shouts out to everybody who lives on the West Coast. I wouldn't say it's the best coast, but it is the West Coast. And we are coming to you guys live today. We will be picking up our load later on today, but I wanted to come live and drop some gems for you guys. My DJ, in-house DJ, Mr. Davis, is going to go ahead and cut that music for me. Thank you, Mr. Davis. But we are, like I said, we're here on the West Coast. We are picking up our load later, but I wanted to discuss a couple things with regards to tour manager and market positions, right? I went live a couple days ago. For those of you who don't know, definitely go back and watch that video. And while you're here, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube page, because I drop a lot of insight and information, not just in the experiential marketing industry, but things that can assist you overall in advancing, whether that be personally, whether that be financially, and just overall, you know, as an individual. So I did an interview with a young lady by the name of M, and we discussed pay at the brand ambassador compensation, right? And we got into the nitty gritty. She was able to ask her questions. And after I watched that interview, I went back and I thought about some things that we discussed, and I'm going to get into that later in this video, but I want to go ahead and get started because I posted a job the other day in the group that an agency, which I will not name, but an agency that I have worked for in the past, and I've done brand ambassador work with them. I opted not to do any in-market or management opportunities because for me, the pay wasn't high enough to justify me obtaining, working and taking opportunities for them. But I did have work brand ambassador opportunities with them, and I had a great experience. So I have nothing bad to say about an agency. I am not here to badmouth or bash agencies. I think that is for you, especially if you're working in the experiential marketing industry, that is for you to make your own judgment and to decide, how your experience with with a particular agency may be, because every agency is different and handles their agency accordingly. But an agency, a well-known agency in the experiential marketing industry, posted a job opportunity in the group, and I'm actually going to share my screen in a minute and show you guys that job opportunity so that we can use that as a reference when I start my presentation. But they were looking for in-market and CDLA management opportunities. So it prompted me to say, okay, what are some great things about this post? What are some things that EXPs and individuals, whether you're looking to advance in the industry, whether you have been in the industry for years and you have, years of experience, what are some things that you need to avoid and some things that you need to consider before you start applying for opportunities, whether that be at an in-market manager level, meaning you stay in your city, you stay in your market, and you execute that event and you serve as a manager, or even if you decide to take on a tour management opportunities where you will be traveling for 3, 6, or even 8 to 9 months, at a time. What are some factors that you need to keep in mind before you decide to execute that event or that particular tour? And what are some things that you need to be asking experiential marketing and staffing agencies as well? So let me go ahead and share my screen really quick. And before I do that, I am going to go ahead and bring up the post in the group as well, so we have something really quick to reference. And shouts out to everybody who took the time yesterday to not only comment on the post, but share their insight as well and their thoughts on it. So let me go ahead and pull it up. I'm looking for it right now. Let's see here. Okay. Okay. All right. And unfortunately, I can't find the post, but I do have all the insight and everything that I took from the post here to present to you guys in my presentation. So let me go ahead and get started really quick. And here it is, what to consider when applying for experiential management opportunities. So you guys go ahead and take notes. I hope you have your pen and ready because we're going to get started. So before we get started, I know a lot of you may be new to my YouTube channel, you new to the Facebook group, and you may be wondering, okay, who is Jay? Who is this girl, Jay Davis? Like, what has she really done in the industry, right? How long has she been executing events as an experiential marketing professional? Well, I've been in the industry, guys, for over 12 years. I've worked at every position. I started as a brand ambassador, and I've been able to move up in the industry, obtain my CDLA license in 2014. And from there, that's when my career took off, substantially. I was able to work full-time as a CDLA tour manager, execute events alongside my husband. And we've had the opportunity to travel to every state except Hawaii. We've executed events in some of the coolest markets. We've been a part of automotive sample programs. I mean, you name it, we've touched it. We've had our hands on it. We've had crazy setups, and we've had some failures, but we've also had some successes along the way. And it has resulted in us being able to make six figures in this industry. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but it can be done. But it's dependent on the individual, and their willingness to put the work in. As I said, you're only going to get out what you put in the experiential marketing industry. I am also the author of the best-selling book, You Do What? For those of you who don't know, this is the ultimate experiential marketing guide. And I wrote this book because I found that working in the experiential marketing industry, when I first started back in 2009, there was no guide, there was no resource for me to reference on how to accurately, professionally, and successfully move up in the industry and make this a full-time career. So through all my trials, through my tribulations, through my experience, I wrote a book that would assist anyone, whether you are starting at the brand ambassador level or whether you're looking to move up into management opportunities. This book is the ultimate, experiential marketing guide. So if you guys haven't already, go ahead and purchase your copy at Amazon, or you could check out my page, J Davis Media, to learn more. I am also the co-founder of T100 Consulting and T100 Logistics. This is a company that my husband and I founded. Of T100 Consulting being one catered to experiential marketing events and working with clients and helping with consulting. And then T100 Logistics is our newly formed company that assists with logistics in the trucking industry, the industry we've been able to pivot in during the pandemic. And also, I'm a big advocate for making sure you have multiple streams of income and you understand the importance of diversification. So I discuss ways in which you can grow outside the industry, both personally, financially, and in business. And that was why I created my YouTube channel. So we're going to get down into the nitty gritty, right? How to excel as an experiential marketing professional at any position. You first got to set goals. You got to understand, okay, what is my end all be all? Am I just working in the experiential marketing industry part-time right now to just supplement my income? Or do I love this industry and want to make this a full-time career? You also got to understand the importance of diversifying and diversification. You can't just get stuck in doing one job in the industry. Yes, if you want to just work brand ambassador positions, you have that option as well. But if you are looking at this industry and you're saying, okay, I definitely want to move into more tour manager and market management opportunities, you got to be willing and able to diversify and take on opportunities that will allow you to move into those positions so you can excel. Use your certification, your degrees, or trade. How are you leveraging your current skills, right? How are you turning those skills into assets to be able to assist you in the future and moving into more positions? And also, you got to save and plan ahead. This industry is not one for those. You can't, if you have poor financial habits and you don't properly and effectively manage your money, then you will not succeed in this industry, because we do have a high season, we do have a low season. So you have to be mindful of that, and you have to make sure that you are planning and practicing smart money tips. You also have to know your why. and ask yourself, okay, I'm going to be looking to advance in industry and I'm going to be applying for this in-market or tour management opportunity. What benefit does it have to you? Whether it be a financial gain, whether that be obtaining more experience, whether that be adding this particular opportunity to your resume because you know it will in turn allow you to obtain the opportunities that you desire. You have to know your why when you're working in this industry. I've found that the individuals that have a goal, that set goals, that know the path that they want to take in the experiential marketing industry are the most successful. The ones who are just, going day to day and just looking and winging it, they tend to get complacent and get stuck. So you have to know why you are working in the experiential marketing industry and what will the benefits be to you executing this particular in-market or tour program. You also have to ask yourself, what are you willing to sacrifice? So many people want to be on tour. So many people ask me, when I'm managing tours, okay, Jay, I'm ready to move to the next level. How do I do that? Well, you have to first ask yourself, are you willing to be away from home for 3, 6, even 9 months on end? Are you willing to put a lot of times sacrifice a lot of your personal time to be able to execute a program? Are you willing to put the work in on tour? When things get tough, are you willing to effectively communicate any issues or concerns that you have? There is a level of sacrifice that goes into successfully being able to navigate and move up in the experiential marketing industry. You also have to have a good work ethic. And this has to coincide with any position that you're applying for within the industry. If you don't put the work in, if you're not willing to do the things that you need to do in order to advance and network and connect and just quite frankly show up on time and effectively communicate adequate brand information. If you're not willing to do that, then you're in the wrong industry. I say it and I'm going to continue to say it over and over. This industry is not for everyone. And people get in the experiential marketing industry thinking that they are going to be able to just advance and move up. Granted, it does happen for some, but eventually it catches up with them, and their ability to consistently maintain those two opportunities doesn't happen because they do not understand the value of work ethic and the ability to be able to put the work in. So you also have to make sure you are truly qualified for a position. You can't be putting fraudulent information on your resume, and then when you have the opportunity to sit in front of a account or staffing manager and interview for an opportunity, you can't speak on the things that are on your resume. How are you able to leverage the skills that you've obtained over the years? And more importantly, how can you sell those as assets when you are speaking to an account or staffing manager? You got to make sure that you are truly qualified for the position in which you are seeking, and that you're able, whenever you get on the phone, you're able to sell yourself and sell those assets and leverage that for the position. And you have to make sure your social media, your resume is consistent. Everything has to be consistent with who you say you are on social media or personally. You can't, agencies do social media checks. They check, to make sure that you are a person of good character, you are a person of good ethics. So they have clients and they have brands that they have to answer to and ultimately present you, right, the EXP, as the asset for that particular program. So you have to make sure that not only your social media is consistent, but you have things aligned which sell you as the asset to any program. I say it to EXPs all the time. If you want to keep a person on social media, that's fine, but just make sure that you have a professional social media page which highlights your experience within the industry as well. And also, I got a little typo there, but be honest with yourself. Don't set yourself up for failure if you know that you are not truly qualified for opportunity, because it will hurt you in the long run and you will not be able to move up and maintain consistent opportunities within the industry. So let's go ahead and jump into this post. The post that I saw in the group yesterday called for a couple different positions. They called for a CDL driver, and let's be clear, they did not specify if it was a CDL A or B driver. They called for an in-market manager, and they called also for a non-CDL A driver. So we're going to explore the first opportunity they posted, which was a CDL A a CDL driver. Now, mind you, I'm not sure if they meant A or B. And that's one of the things when you get on the phone, when you're interviewing, when you're talking to these account managers and these staff coordinators, you have to make sure you're asking these type of questions. Will it be a CDLA manager that you're seeking or a CDLA-B? And what constitutes the difference and what are they looking for? Oftentimes it's just a matter of the type of vehicle that they're going to be using, the tour vehicle. And as you guys can see here, the vehicle for CDLA drivers was one that has a gross vehicle weight of 26,001 pounds or more. If it's less than that, then a individual with a CDLB license, would be considered for the opportunity. But again, this is just going to depend on the agency and what they are looking for at the time. You also have to make sure or keep in mind that this is all relative. So you can take this information and apply it for any opportunities that you may be seeking. This is just one example that I'm using and I'm giving you guys as we continue to see more tour opportunities arise in the industry. So this was the post. They had a weekly rate for the CDLA driver opportunity, or CDL opportunity of $1,200 to $1,700 a week. And this was DOE. It depended on the experience. The per diem was $200 a day. The start date was ASAP. And they did not specify how that daily per diem would be broken up. Would it be $150 for a hotel or $50 for food? Or would it be split down the middle? Half and half. So these are things, and I'm going to get into this in a later slide, factors that you have to consider and questions that you have to ask the account manager when you're speaking with them if you get the opportunity to interview for the position. Okay, what does the per diem look like? How much is going to be allotted for hotels and how much is going to be allotted for my actual food per diem? So I did the math for you guys. If we just look at the salary and the per diem by itself, with a $1,700 a week. So I did the max, right? I wanted to give you guys the big number. So you have something to go off of, and then you can scale back based on the amount that you may require to execute this particular tour or program. So I did the max, $1,700 a week. So I added that along with the daily per diem of $200. And I'm just going to do my fact checking really quick. So if we take that amount, which we do 7 times 2 is 14, because you've got to do 7 days a week times $200. We're looking at $3,100 a week that you'll be making at the max. Now, this is if you're a 1099 employee with the agency. For those of you who don't know, a 1099 employee is one in which the agency does not take out taxes for your pay. So this brings up a great question. You have to ask that agency, am I going to be considered a 1099 or W-2 employee? So we took it a step further and I broke this down. If you were working 40 hours a week. So let's say this tour required the bare minimum, right? Let's say that you were just going to be setting up, you were going to manage the program, manage the brand ambassadors, manage your tour staff, and they were not going to be doing a lot of activations throughout the week at 40 hours a week, right? This would be your pay at an hourly rate. And then I showed you guys the other side of the spectrum at 80 hours a week. Now, granted, when you are working on tour side, you have to factor things like your drive time, your time it takes to complete event recaps, the things that you have to do on a day-to-day basis to make sure that the tour is successful, site checks, reaching out to on-site contacts. That all has to be factored in your hourly rate and what it takes for you on a daily basis to execute that particular tour or program. So this is at 80 hours, but I was being really nice here because this number could go up. So at 80 hours, if you just take the salary, I did not factor in the per diem in this number because the per diem is a variable cost and one that will change based on the market and, whether you decide to spend more or less of that per diem. So we're just looking at the salary amount, right? The weekly amount is $1,700. At 80 hours is $21.25 an hour. And again, that number could go down based on a couple things. One, if you're considered a W-2 employee. A W-2 or W-4 employee is an individual that works for an agency or a company in which taxes are taken out. So if this agency or an agency decides to say, you know what, we're going to make you consider you an employee of our company, so we are going to take taxes out, you have to factor in and consider that these numbers are going to decrease. All right. So make sure you keep that in mind when you are applying for opportunities. And one thing I also want to stress, CDLA B license holders, although you will not be able to drive vehicles that weigh over the 26,001 pounds, it still allows you to drive tour vehicles, many of which are used in the industry, such as box trucks, sprinters, and different vehicles in which clients and agencies fabricate, which will not come to that gross vehicle weight. All right. So definitely keep those things in mind. I have some examples here of some tour vehicles that are commonly used in the industry. We have the F450 dually, and often that is used to pull trailers that open up for events. And what constitutes these oftentimes being CDLA vehicles is the weight of the trailer in the actual vehicle, the gross vehicle weight. And then you also have tractor trailers as well, which we've done executed tour, which involved those type of vehicles. So next position that was actually on the post was the non-CDL driver. So this position paid a weekly rate of $1,100 to $1,500, and it depended on experience as well. The per diem was consistent and was the same at $200 a day. The start date was ASAP. So after doing the math on just the salary alone at the max, at the $1,500 a week, if you included that along with the actual $200 daily per diem, you would be making a amount of $2,900 a week as a 1099 employee. Hourly at 40 hours, it would be $37.50, and at 80 hours, you're looking at $18.75 an hour. So you guys can see the rate actually went down a little bit, and let me just go back here. It went down $100 if you didn't have a CDLA license. So this is common, and these are some things to keep in mind. You have to ask yourself, okay, if you want to move up and obtain opportunities consistently in the industry, is obtaining my CDLA license a asset? And I will say yes, it is, because I have seen and have been able to leverage that to request a higher compensation on a weekly basis. I took the time to obtain that certification, and I know that the worth and the value that it brings to any program. So therefore, I am going to request the top dollar amount when I'm executing any events, because as we know, when you are serving in a CDLA management position, is often you not just driving. You're having to help with setup, breakdown, train, and manage the actual event site. So these are factors and things that you definitely have to keep in consideration. As I said before, this hourly pay does not include the per diem. So when I broke down these numbers, it doesn't include the extra per diem because that is a variable cost. And this will, again, decrease if you are considered W-2 employee with the agency. And the next position, the market manager position. So this is one in which you will not have to travel. You will stay relative to your market that you reside in, or with them stating clearly that this is a market manager position, they're letting you know that they will not be paying for travel. It will not be included within the actual rate. So you definitely have to keep that in mind, especially if you live in a market that is close to the area in which they're looking for a manager. Prime example, if they're looking to hire a market manager in Atlanta, but you live in Birmingham, Alabama, which is 2 hours away. If you're going to be applying for that opportunity, you have to factor in the fact that you're going to be driving to and from, to execute this event if you're rewarded the opportunity. Now you may have friends and family that you can live with in Atlanta and make it work for you, where you're not having to spend money on gas and hotels or Airbnbs, but you definitely have to keep that in mind. Your mileage, the wear and tear in your vehicle, these are all factors you have to think about if you're considering executing a regional or market manager position in an area in which you do not reside. All right. So for this position, the weekly rate was arranged between $1,100 and $1,300 a week, and that depended on experience. The daily per diem was $50 a day, so it decreased from $250 again because you're not having to have a hotel expense. So that leads me to believe that the hotel expense was actually $150 for this program, and the per diem, the daily food per diem, was $50 a day. So the start date for this one was July 1st to December 31st. So this goes throughout the whole duration of the rest of the year, and it had the possibility of an extension. So we factor in all costs at the max, right? You're looking at $1,650 a week as a 1099 employee. The hourly pay for this position breaks down to $32.50 at 40 hours, and then at 80 hours, $16.25 an hour. And again, this is based on whether you are working in your home market or you're going to be traveling, right? And this agency has made it known that the travel will be on you, meaning you'll have to come out of pocket and pay for your fuel and all of those travel related expenses. And again, you got to factor in if this is a W-2 position once you talk to that account manager or staffing coordinator, because these numbers are going to vary and decrease. All right. So those are the three positions. Those are the three opportunities that this agency posted in the group. Now, what are some factors? What are some things that you have to keep in mind and consider before applying for any type of position? Okay. And let me go ahead and get into that right now. Before applying for any type. I was checking myself. All right. So you have to ask yourself, what will my roles and responsibilities be? And you have to ask the staffing and account manager this as well when you have the opportunity to interview for the position. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis? What does that look like on a week-to-week basis? What does my footprint look like? How big will my footprint be? Because this is going to factor into the time that it's going to take you to set up and break down, how many labor staff or brand ambassadors you're going to need to assist you on a day-to-day or event by event basis, and also the type of tour assets that you'll be using to execute this type of event. Will they be heavy? Will they be mobile? Will they be ones in which there will be turnkey and easy for you to maneuver in and out of the type of vehicle, whether that is a box truck or a bigger, trailer that you'll be using. So you have to also keep that in mind. What is the anticipated setup and breakdown time? Have you guys, as the agency, had a chance to actually look at and lay eyes on the tour assets? And how long do you anticipate this taking? Now, I will tell you this. Many account managers and staffing coordinators have not worked in the field. This is starting to change. But for the most part, a lot of account managers do not have experience in the field. So when they tell you this number, add a couple hours on the front end, right? And on the back end, because you are the one that's going to be touching these assets every day. You're the one who's going to be physically doing the work. So you have to make sure that you are allowing the time for that, and you are factoring that into your hourly rate and the weekly rate that has been awarded to you if you decide to execute this type of tour. Also, the activation time. What is the anticipated time in which the activation will start? Once that time is given to you, you also have to factor in, okay, that means I have to be here based on my footprint size and the time it's going to take me to set up and break down. My labor or my brand ambassadors have to be here 1, 2, 3 hours before. And once the activation is complete, how much time on the back end is it going to take me to actually break down and conclude this whole footprint or this whole setup? Or will I be able to come back the next day, or will I be able to set up a day before? And you have to factor that into your hours as well. Will you have to manage and train staff? And if so, how many? If you're just serving as a driver and you're dropping the tour assets and they're going to have a separate team come in and actually do the setup and breakdown and the execution of the event, that is a completely different story. But I'm here to tell you 80% of the time, 90% of the time, if you're working as a CDLA tour manager, you're going to have to assist with setup, breakdown, managing, and training staff. So these are things you have to ask. How many staff will be allotted to execute this particular activation? And will I be responsible for doing that? Or will I have an assistant tour manager or a team lead that will be coming in each market in each city to assist me with that? Also, do they have an anticipated routing calendar? This is extremely important, especially if you're going to be on tour full time. You need to know the markets, the cities in which you will be visiting or traveling to and activating this type of event or long-term program in. This is going to help you with your drive time. This is going to be crucial in helping you to decide, okay, when you need to leave to drive to a particular market, how long it's going to take you to actually arrive there. Traffic is also going to help you in calculating your overall hours, because your drive time is considered work time as well. And I just went over that. And also, how often will the execution of the events occur? Will they be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week? And how much time have they allotted for you in the routing to get from city to city? So prime example, if you're executing an event in Atlanta on Monday and the next event is in Charlotte on Thursday, will you be executing a 1 to 2 day event? And I know just our first-hand experience, it takes 4 hours to get from Atlanta to Charlotte. So how much time have they built in for you to travel to Charlotte, for you to call the on-site contact for the actual event in Charlotte and conduct the on-site, site check? These are things that you have to consider and factors that you have to definitely take into consideration before you decide to execute any program, whether it be a tour manager or even at an in-market management or regional manager level. Will you have to serve as a client liaison? Oftentimes, yes. Clients do come on site because they want to make sure that the contract, the value, and the investment that they've put into a particular tour and market program is reaping the benefits, right? They're seeing that translate into numbers, into data, and into just, quite frankly, an overall successful event. So you may have to serve as a client liaison. You may have to make changes on site when a client comes with regards to the footprint, the activation, or even just the placement of your overall asset. So that's something you definitely have to ask the account manager or the staffing coordinator when you are interviewing for an opportunity. And lastly, what qualifications are they looking for, which will constitute them paying the maximum salary every week? Because I know the value that I bring to any program or any event, I'm always asking, okay, I know that I'm going to successfully execute this program. I know that I'm going to be able to retain this client for you. So what is required for me to go ahead and put in for that maximum salary a week? Because that's what I anticipate on doing. What are you looking for as an agency? What are the qualifications and the skills that myself as the tour manager or the in-market manager must possess in order to be able to request that maximum salary? So I will say this, prior to even getting on the phone, right, and having this interview, you got to make sure that your stuff's in order, that your resume, that your video interview or your video resume showcases the skills and the qualifications that you're looking to the skills and the qualifications that you have to leverage in order to obtain the tour opportunity that you're looking to desire. So if you want the tour manager opportunity, right, if you want to demand the $1,700 a week, does your resume speak to the $1,700 worth of work? Have you been able to successfully, based on you asking the account manager or the staffing coordinator these questions, have you been able to showcase that in your resume when you get on the phone and you interview with this account manager or staffing coordinator? And more importantly, do you see yourself as an asset to this program? And are you able and willing to work through the tough times or the tough instances that will occur while you're on tour, and do it with a smile and maintain a positive attitude and effectively communicate? These are things and factors that you definitely have to consider and keep in mind when you are applying for tour or in-market management opportunities. You also have to look at the financial side of this, right? As you guys know, if for those of you who don't know, I'm a finance major. So I look at the numbers from a totality perspective. I'm always asking, okay, is this a 1099 or W-2 position? Because that's going to waver and that's going to waver and determine, the amount and the salary that I'm going to demand for this position, right? Is there an option to serve as a 1099 under my business entity? This is for all of you who have your LLC, who took the time to set up your LLCs. Yes, you can leverage that and go in and serve as a 1099 under your business entity if the agency allows that option. Now, keep in mind, you will be responsible at the end of the year for filing taxes and claiming that money and allocating it accordingly. So make sure you have a great CPA or accountant or tax preparer that can help you with that. You also need to be asking, okay, how is my per diem broken up? Is it $150 for hotel or $50 for food, or is it split down the middle? How does that look with regards to per diem? You also have to ask, will your per diem be taxed? And will a company credit card be provided to cover all event-related costs? This is extremely important. You are going to need to buy different assets and different materials and things to assist you on executing your tour. Now, oftentimes, especially if you're working with an agency who has experience executing tours, they'll have what I like to call an event kit prepared. They'll have your ratchet straps, your gaff tape, your Allen keys, your Phillips head screwdriver, your toolbox, everything that you need to successfully execute a tour, box cutters, just to name a few. They'll have these things already for you and set up and prepared so that when you hit the road, you won't need to buy these things. But I'm here to tell you, Home Depot is my second home. And we spend a lot of time in that store buying things that we need, whether it's tape, whether it's drills, whether it's wood, whether it's sandbags. The list goes on and on, right? So these are things that you may have to buy an additional cost that you will have to factor in once you get on tour and you do your first setup, right? Or you sit down and you look at all your event elements and you assess the things that you're going to need to successfully execute an event, and more importantly, avoid any liability or issues with regards to consumers. Small things such as wood planks for tents and etc. These are things you have to keep in mind. And if you've been on tour long enough, you've had to make those Home Depot runs last minute. All right. But you have to make sure that agency has a company credit card to cover all the event related expenses or costs. And if they have decided that, hey, we're not going to give you a cash hotel per diem, then you have to make sure that credit card will cover those hotel costs as well. And let me just go back really quick with regards to per diem. It will either be a cash per diem given to you, every week or every 2 weeks on your check in that amount, or it will be given to you on a company credit card with regards to your food and your hotel. And you'll have to either spend it all and they give you back the remaining amount at the end of the tour. So there are a couple ways in which agencies do this. Just have to make sure you ask the appropriate questions to decide and determine which method is going to work best for you. Pay. That's the main thing, right? That's the most important thing. How will you receive your pay? Will it be weekly, bi-weekly? Will it be direct deposit? Will it be live paper check? We live in 2021, so now paper checks are becoming really outdated and everything's moving digital, as we know. Also, is the pay rate negotiable? If the roles and responsibilities differ from what's contractually stated. This is a big one. So when you interview for an opportunity, and the agency decides, okay, we're going to move forward and we're going to hire you and award this opportunity to you, that is your time right now to do your due diligence, do your homework, read over that contract, and make sure things that you discussed on the phone are contractually stated and are laid out in fine print in that contract. If something is missing, if something doesn't make sense to you, go back, have a conversation with that account manager or the agency owner and make sure you clear up those things prior to you signing to execute that tour. All right. And you also have to factor in your fixed versus variable costs, things like food, lodging. If you're able to live or share lodging with a fellow tour manager, then that's going to help save on your cost as well. And you're going to be able to pocket more of your weekly per diem. If you are willing to pack your lunch every day, which is something that T and I do on tour, then that's going to help you save on food costs as well. You have to look at the totality of the salary you're going to be making and find ways in which you can save money. For T and I, that's big. We look at hotels, we look at the food, and we find ways in which we can cut those costs and keep more of that per diem in our pocket, especially if it's not taxed. All right. And travel to and from each market. If you're going to be executing the in-market management position, like I stated before, but you live 2 to 3 hours from that market, then you have to factor in your travel to and from each market, the gas, the fuel, wear and tear on your vehicle. That has to also be factored in and considered. So you may be saying, okay, Jay, I made it past the first steps. The agency called me back. I got my first interview with the account manager or the staffing coordinator. What do I do? What questions do I ask? First and foremost, you got to practice my 3 Ps for success that I talk about. And you do what? You got to make sure that you are presentable, even on digital and on virtual platforms. Yes, you got to make sure that you are personable. They want to see the individual that was in that video resume or on that social media page. Presentable, personable, and you got to be professional, maintain a high level of professionalism. So for you, the individual, the EXP interviewing for that opportunity, you definitely have to make sure that you are representing yourself accordingly and you are a brand within a brand. But when you get your opportunity to talk to that account manager or staffing coordinator, here are a couple of questions you got to ask them. First and foremost, do you have prior in-field experience? This for me is a big one. If I am working with an account manager or staffing coordinator who has prior experience working and executing events in the field, I know that they're going to bring their A game, that they're going to understand a lot of the things that I am going to encounter on a day-to-day basis, from my routing, from my logistics, from my event setup, from my tour assets, from managing and hiring, not necessarily hiring, but from day-to-day management of the staff and the actual event. So they're going to be your biggest asset, right? Because they're going to fight for you in the office, and they're going to make sure that you are not only, well, hopefully, compensated accordingly, but you have everything that you need to successfully execute that tour and market program. So this is a big one. Make sure you ask this question. And if they don't have in-field experience, it's not a bad thing, but just know you may have to work a little bit harder to explain some of the things and the challenges that you are facing on a day-to-day basis, and why it's essential for them to either ramp up their communication or speak with their client, or even speak with a staffing agency to make sure you have the appropriate labor staff on a day-to-day basis. And it also helps if that account manager or staffing coordinator comes out to the event site, even for the first or second event. Oftentimes they will do this just to make sure that the event is running smoothly and to help troubleshoot any issues that may arise, and also work as that client liaison as well, if they know that that client is going to be on site for the event. You want to also ask them how long have they been working with the agency and working with this client. So if they're new to the agency, that's something to definitely consider. But if they've been there for a while, then you know that they are familiar with how that agency conducts business. And more importantly, if they've worked with this client before, they can give you some insight into the expectations and the responsibilities that that client may have for you as that tour and market manager. You also have to ask them, have they had the opportunity to lay hands, to lay eyes on the tour footprint and review all the assets? This is important because it's going to help you in answering those questions with regards to the setup for the event time, the footprint, and how heavy or how mobile are the tour assets. Oftentimes they're the ones working with the fabrication company who's designing the footprint. So they have some idea and some insight into what is required with regards to the footprint. So they are the first line of communication. And oftentimes when you go to training, the agency will have you take out all the assets and review them and make sure that you are familiar with them or address any concerns that you have, so that they're able to then speak with the fabrication company to get those rectified. And also you have to ask them, okay, if you are going through this interview, the energy's great, they are loving and hearing about your skills and assets, and you just feel like this would be a great opportunity for you, you have to ask them, when do they anticipate making a decision regarding the management position? Because as we know, at the end of the day, working in the experiential marketing industry, opportunities come about on a day-to-day basis, and they're starting to come up more with the pandemic being over. So you're putting all your fillers out there. You're applying for all types of opportunities. So you have to ask them when they're going to be looking to make a decision, because another opportunity may arise, and you don't want to lose out on that opportunity if they know that they may be going with someone else, or they may be taking a couple weeks to consider all candidates. So just like we are required to effectively communicate, you can ask that account manager or staff coordinator to please email you and let you know, as soon as they decide on a decision and whether or not they're going to move forward with you. All right. So as we wrap up, some things to keep in mind. Make sure you read your contracts thoroughly and enlist legal consult if needed, right? There's nothing wrong with reviewing that contract and enlisting the help of someone that works in the legal field to answer any questions you may have. The one thing you don't want to do is go into a tour and market management opportunity blindly. Put everything in writing. CYA, I'm a big advocate for this. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have things that you want to address, make sure you put it in writing, all right? And give that account manager or coordinator time to respond and come back with an answer for you. Pay attention to red flags early and adjust accordingly. If they are not communicating and responding to your emails and texts within 48, 2 to 3 days, if they never have an answer for the questions that you're asking, if they are beating around the bush with regards to paying compensation, if they are not having your best interest in mind, pay attention to those red flags early, and it may not be the right opportunity for you. All right. Don't sell yourself short. If you are qualified, request a higher compensation. If you are qualified, request a higher compensation. If you are qualified, request for the higher compensation. If you're qualified, right? There's a big difference, and ensuring that you have the qualifications and you'll be able to successfully execute that program is key. But you have to make sure that you are qualified, because you are going to be expected to deliver. Don't stop applying after a no. Working in this industry, you're going to get 500 no's before you get that one yes. So don't let that rejection, that one no, stop you from applying. Continue to apply, because the right opportunity will arise. And as I said earlier, remember my 3 P's for success. I outline this in my book, You Do What? You got to make sure that you're personal, professional, and presentable, all right, at all times. So understanding the experiential marketing industry. Our industry is not going anywhere, so don't get discouraged. I know with the recent pandemic, opportunities kind of fell, to the wayside, and we didn't have a lot going on in 2020. But just know the industry is going to come back, right? So continue to apply for opportunities, continue to network, and follow up with your account and staffing managers. If you've built relationships in the past, now is the time to reach out. Now is the time to follow up and see what opportunities they have coming down the pipeline in the next coming months. Also, as you know, working in this industry, no event or opportunity is guaranteed. I've been on programs where the event was canceled last minute. I was set to go out on tour, T&I, and our tour was canceled within less than a week's notice. So things happen, things change, right? So you have to be willing and able to adjust accordingly, but you also have to understand that you are a freelancer, you are an independent contractor, so no opportunity is guaranteed. So you always have to keep your feelers out there, and you have to continue apply, all right? But also do consistent work, do great work in the industry, all right? And weather, health issues, government, national security issues may all be factors which will affect our ability to maintain any consistent opportunities. We saw that in 2020, all right? And also, take the necessary precautions to make sure you're able to sustain and maintain outside of the industry. Yes, this is an industry where you can make money quick, but you also have to understand the financial ramifications for that. How are you able to leverage the money that you're making to create another income stream, or to be able to save for the slow season? You have to have a plan of action. You have to be practicing smart money tips. You have to make sure that you are putting things in place so that you're able to not only sustain, especially if you want to work in this industry full time and make it a career, but you also have to look at your mental and your physical health and make sure that all of that is in order. All right. We don't need any drama-filled EXPs coming on site. We need individuals with a positive attitude, with a positive mindset, and individuals that are there to enjoy the event, to enjoy the program, and have fun. That's what agencies want. That's what this industry is all about, is creating that memorable consumer experience, right? And as consumer-facing individuals, we are the first line of defense for that. So being able to put your best foot forward is essential, but also understanding and making sure that you are being paid your worth and that you understand what your roles and responsibilities are is also key. All right. So I'm going to open this up for questions really quick. I want to thank all of you guys for joining me for this presentation. If you guys have any questions, if you want personal coaching, definitely visit my website, www.jdavis.media, and check out my Calendly link there. Also, if you want to purchase your copy of You Do What, it is available on my website or on Amazon as well. And make sure you leave me a review. And remember, you are a brand within a brand, so represent yourself accordingly. All right. I know I covered a lot in this presentation, so definitely go back and watch this. Take some notes. Go back and look at your current situation and assess the things that you need to change, the things that you need to revamp, and make sure that you are taking these factors into consideration when you are applying for opportunities. And again, make sure you guys follow me on social media at jdavis.media, and make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. You're already here. Go ahead and click that button to receive notifications as well. All right. So let me get to these questions really quick because I do have some before I hop off of here. Shady Cake, how are you doing? Thank you for joining me live. So let's see, how much to obtain CDL license and the number of training mandatory hours? All right, good question, Shady Cake. So CDL license, right? Obtaining your CDL license is going to vary based on the state that you live in. I can only speak from Georgia. So with Georgia, it is 160, 190 hours that we need. 180. So I was right in the middle. You are required to do 180 hours in order to obtain your CDLA license. The price can vary from 3 to 5 to even 10? Have you seen 10,000 T? What's the highest you've seen? 5,000. I'm asking T, my husband, his insight on this as well. So $5,000 is what we've seen the max. Now, some companies may charge more for the actual to obtain your CDLA license. Each school has different programs that you can get into. You either can do an accelerated 3-week course, which is what I did. And I was able to go through a government program in Atlanta to get my CDLA paid for free. So there are opportunities out there to be able to leverage that. So make sure you guys check with government agencies, especially if you have been unemployed during the pandemic, to see what type of opportunities that they provide to assist with you getting your CDLA paid for. Other states may offer a financial amount of stipend that'll help and assist towards you obtaining your CDL. So make sure you read the reviews, you check with the best agencies, the ones that will make sure that you have the adequate training to equip you to be on the road full time, whether that is in a experiential marketing related vehicle that is CDLA required, or a tractor trailer like T and I are in. So you need the training, and it's essential in both areas, because you have to understand DOT regulations. You have to understand log hours, how to log your hours, and the hours in which you can drive on a day-to-day basis. But make sure you check with your state, because every state has different requirements in order to obtain your CDL, and the hours that are essential or needed in order to become a certified CDLA driver. You can opt for your CDLA-B, which will allow you to drive straight trucks and box trucks. But my mindset is always, hey, go ahead and get the highest certification, because that's going to, be your trump card and allow you to go and drive straight trucks, box trucks, and any other type of CDL vehicles, whether that be A or B as well. All right. Next question. What are your thoughts on paying upfront for those items, wrench, tape, etc., and being reimbursed for them later? I have done that in the past, and let me tell you, it can be good and bad, because agencies, the good agencies, will, the minute you send in that receipt for reimbursement, you'll have your check, for that event related expense by the end of the week. And I've also had the flip side where I've had to wait 2, 3, even 4 weeks to be reimbursed for an event-related expense. So it's definitely something that you want to ask the account manager or staffing coordinator prior to executing and committing to any program. Event and tour-related expenses are going to come up on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing and able to keep coming out of pocket for these expenses, especially if you're not being reimbursed in a timely manner? Now, if you have a prior relationship with this agency and you've worked with them, you've never had any issues with being reimbursed or being paid in a timely manner, then that's something for you to decide, and determine whether or not you want to go ahead and take that risk and pay out of pocket for those expenses and be reimbursed. There are some advantages to that, i.e. getting reward points, but you have to ask yourself, does that correlate, or is that really worth me risking not being reimbursed for those expenses? Again, I'm talking about the agencies who don't follow and have good business practices, but all of the agencies, or most of the agencies that I've worked with, pay and reimburse in a timely manner, and they do provide company credit cards for event related expenses such as fuel, event materials, that are needed as well. All right. And last question, in an interview, how do you answer the question, what do you do if you're not getting along with your fellow tour manager team member on the tour? Okay. This is a two-part question. It depends on the role that you're in, right? Let's say you're applying for the management opportunity, right? And this question does come up. Okay, Jay, how do you deal with unruly or unprofessional EXPs or brand ambassadors or fellow tour members, right? How do you put fires out, essentially, right? And make sure everybody gets along. This, in my opinion, has to be a question that is answered based on your personality. You have to ask yourself, how do you handle conflict resolution when things transpire, whether you're working at a brand ambassador level or even at a management level? How do you put those fires out on an event by event basis? For me, my response to this question is I always handle things in a professional manner. So if I'm having an issue with a fellow tour staff tour staff member, or brand ambassador, I like to pull that individual to the side. I don't like to address these things in public. I have a one-on-one conversation with the individual. I ask them, okay, what is going on today? Like, are you having a bad day? Why are you addressing or handling things in this manner? What can we do to fix it? Because I don't like to resort to sending people home. And do you need to take a 30-minute break? Do you just need to take some time to regroup and come back in a more positive mind frame? How can I assist you and help you so that we can keep you here for the activation, quite frankly? So I give individuals a chance to tell their side of the story. I do have conversations to kind of feel that individual out, but that is a personal thing that you're going to have to figure out, especially when you're on tour and you're managing events and you're dealing with brand ambassadors or tour staff on a day-to-day basis, right? Everybody needs their time, their woosah time, and their time to recoup, especially if you're on tour and you have 3, 4, 5, 6 different personalities, right? We all need our time. But if you're working with brand ambassadors and staff on a day-to-day basis and you're seeing different faces every day, it is important for you to let that account manager know that you're going to set proper rules and you're going to outline the roles and responsibilities during training and the expectations for everyone. Now, if you have individuals who don't adhere to that, then at that point, you're going to have to decide and make a decision. Is that person an asset or a liability? Are they hindering the footprint? Are they hindering the consumer interaction? And you're going to have to decide if you need to send that person home, and you're going to have to contact the appropriate people to make that decision. But ultimately, when you are serving as a tour manager and market manager, that agency, that client, that brand is entrusting you to have their best interests in heart and to make the appropriate decisions and to adjust accordingly, because things change on the fly, especially when you're on site. You got so many different variables, so many different things going on. So you have to eliminate your liabilities, the things that are going to continue to be sources of contention throughout the program or the actual event. And You have to be straight up. You have to be frank, but you have to do it in a professional way. You can still have fun, laugh, but you have to let your staff and everybody know that you are there to successfully do your job. They are expected, to do the same thing. And if they're feeling like they're unable to do so, then they need to let you know and communicate that immediately so you can adjust accordingly. Okay. But yes, as a manager, you are putting out fires. You are working to make sure that that event or that program is successfully executed. So making sure that you have expectations laid out initially will set the precedence for any event or any activation. And making sure that you communicate this to the account manager and staffing coordinator with regard to the way that you handle and conduct business as a tour manager is important, so that they know what to expect and their client knows what to expect when you are on site and you're executing their event. Because at the end of the day, like I say all the time, you are a brand within a brand. So you're representing not only that agent and client, but more importantly, you're representing yourself. And you want to continue to have and obtain consistent opportunities, especially at a management level. And part of the way in which you do that is making sure that you successfully represent that brand, represent that client, but more important that you meet all the goals and the things that that program has outlined. Okay, so effective communication, I cannot stress that enough, is key. Representing yourself is in a professional manner is key, and effectively communicating. Okay, so before we end, I'm going to take a couple more questions. I want to thank you guys all for joining me. I hope this information assisted you. I know it did. And determining and applying for future opportunities, whether it be at a tour or in-market management opportunity. Drop your comments and I'll go back and make sure that I answer them and your questions and answer them once this live is over. This is going to live on my YouTube channel forever, so you can go back and reference this. But definitely share this with any individuals who work in the industry who you know that are trying to either advance to more management opportunities or consistently work as a manager, just as a refresher to help them to ensure that they are doing the things to successfully continue to strive and excel in the industry. All right. Thank you guys for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe. And remember, you are a brand within a brand. So always and foremost, whether you're working in this industry or not, make sure that you are representing yourself accordingly. All right. I'll check in with you guys later. Bye.